Hey everybody, welcome back to Movies and That. I'm your host Cody, and today we're going to continue on with more of my history with the following franchise series. So this time we are doing Friday the 13th. So just going to go through back when I first got familiar with Friday the 13th, what movie I watched first, and kind of how I became a fan, so on and so forth. So if you're not familiar with what I'm doing here, and you probably shouldn't be because I just started doing this, it's just, I'm picking a franchise, horror franchise, sci-fi, or pretty much whatever that comes up, and just detailing when I first watched it, how I got familiar with it, and why I became a fan of the franchise, and just kind of going through the different movies that I've watched. So without further ado, we'll get started here with Friday the 13th. So Friday the 13th is my second favorite horror franchise overall, right behind Halloween, and it's no surprise that it is that, because Friday the 13th is the next horror franchise that I got kind of like hyper obsessed with after watching the first few Halloween movies. So I remember my mom actually telling me about Friday the 13th back when I was started watching Halloween and Jason and all that. So I did a little research on the internet and found out that, wow, there's a bunch of these Friday the 13th movies. I knew who Jason was, kinda. I knew the hockey mask and everything, but never really bothered to even have any interest in Jason Voorhees or Friday the 13th. So one weekend evening, I was at the mall. I walked in FYE, saw Friday the 13th, the original, sitting there, VHS copy of it. Went ahead and bought it, took it home, and really dug it. Dug that whole camp vibe, that camp counselor vibe, and everything like that. However, I was not prepared for Mrs. Voorhees, Jason's mom, being the killer at the end there. The whole time I was waiting for Jason, or waiting for some mention of Jason. Didn't get that until the final act. Didn't get that until the final scene, at least a mention of Jason. And and it was a pretty shocking ending. And then you see Kid Jason, Zombie Jason come up and take Alice down. But with that being said, like I said, I knew there were more movies. So the thing with Friday the 13th, I didn't necessarily watch them in chronological order. I was only able to watch the movies that I was able to buy and pick up that I found in the store. So I think the next ones that I got were Friday the 13th Part 6 and 7. So I watched those two next. And I think that's kind of the reason why Part 6 is my favorite. And and I think it might have always would have been my favorite, even if I didn't watch it when I did. But being that was kind of like my first, I guess, exposure to Jason Voorhees and seeing him on screen, and seeing that type of film pan out, I realized then, I was like, yeah, this is a horror franchise for me. This is as good as Halloween in my opinion. Jason is awesome. He's like Michael Myers in a sense. Like, this is cool. I don't remember too much about Part 7 watching it back then, but I know I got 6 and 7 together. And then my next watches were actually, I believe, Part 8. So Jason Takes Manhattan. I think that was my next one. And how I'm able to remember all this is because I have these VHS copies still. So I know kind of which ones I picked out because they all look, how the cover art matches each other. There's with 6 and 7, or with 7 and 8, they had like this alternative box art that was like the only copies I could find at the time. So yeah, I'm pretty sure Jason Takes Manhattan was the next one I watched, and back then I actually was a fan of that movie. Now I'm really not, but back then I was. And I enjoyed the whole Jason on a boat in New York City and whatnot. Like, I thought it was cool. So actually, I like that. It's safe to say I like 6, 7, and 8. But then the next copies I picked up were 2 and 4. So Part 2, I kind of remember being a little confused of like Sackhead Jason, but then I kind of quickly like picked up like, okay, yeah, he doesn't have his hockey mask yet, and I wasn't sure when he got his hockey mask. And like I said, I was only getting these movies when I could find them, when they were available. So I ended up skipping 3 and going to 4, the final chapter, and that was a huge, like, great movie. It was actually the one that kind of freaked me out and scared me a little bit, because Jason is a menacing force in that movie. So yeah, it just, him, I have no clue I got his mask. It's coming from a cliffhanger from the previous movie. I haven't seen that previous movie yet. And then I ended up getting part 3. I saw it and it was on DVD. So every Friday the 13th I had up until this point were VHSs. Part 3 was the first DVD one I got. So finally I got that, and it was the missing piece of the puzzle there. And I was able to find out how Jason gets his mask. And I remember that one actually being my favorite for the longest time. When I was younger. Like, I loved part 6, don't get me wrong, but when I watched part 3, something about that movie kind of drew me in, kind of hooked me, and I found myself rewatching that one and part 6 the most. So it was 3 and 6 I was rewatching the most. Now, as for, like, Jason Goes to Hell, Jason X, of course, Freddy vs. Jason. Now, Freddy vs. Jason, it was a huge thing back when it was coming out. Like, it was everywhere. It was all over the early internet at the time. All over, like, if you go to the video store, if you get FYE or Suncoast, there's always all the promotional stuff for it. So that's kind of like how I got familiar with, or kind of knew of Freddy Krueger in a sense. But I remember being super hyped for that one. But I cannot remember if I saw Freddy vs. Jason before seeing Jason Goes to Hell and Jason X. I'm pretty sure I did. Actually, no, let me back up there. I didn't, because Jason Goes to Hell and Jason X were 2 other ones I got on VHS. So that's how I'm kind of remembering where I'm at, movie-wise. Because I got Freddy vs. Jason on DVD when that came out. That was the first time I saw it. I was too young to go to theaters to see it or anything like that. So yeah, I'm pretty sure I got Jason Goes to Hell and Jason X. I remember Jason Goes to Hell, I didn't get it. I really didn't care for it. I thought it did suck even back then. Like that first opening, like that kind of hooked me, that drew me right in, and then it completely lost me after that. Jason X is just a good time overall. I liked it the first time I saw it, and I still like it to this day. It was different, but I didn't necessarily care. I had a good time with it. And then, of course, Freddy vs. Jason, right? That was just a badass movie overall. 2 titans going at it, right? Part of the big 3 fighting each other, kind of that long-awaited cliffhanger from Jason Goes to Hell. And yeah, in my opinion, it delivered. I'm a huge fan of Freddy vs. Jason. And that was the first time I actually watched a Freddy Krueger movie, in a way. So that's what got me introduced to him. But yeah, for the original Paramount and the original New Line movies, that's my background, that's my history with them. And, like I said, the part 6 is really what captured me as being a fan and just wanting to see more. Of course, the first one did it, but part 6 is really what, made me a fan, and then that devolved into part 3 being my favorite, and I've kind of changed things here and there. And then we have the 2009 remake or reboot, whatever you want to call it. Didn't see that in theaters. I do remember when it came out, and I don't know why I think it's because I was, too young to see it by myself and in theaters and whatnot. But I do remember when it was released on video. Actually, I rented it on demand when it came out. Comcast On Demand back in the day. So I remember that was the first time I saw it, and wasn't a huge fan of it. I don't know. Back then, I think it was just the characters just annoyed me. Jason was cool. I remember that was the only thing I really liked about the movie. And so for the longest time, I kind of never really cared about it. I never really went to revisit it. If I was going to watch Friday the 13th, it was going to be one of the old ones. And it took me a while to warm up to the 2009 remake. And it's I don't want to say it's one of my favorites. It's like right in the middle of the road for me in my ranking. I think it's like 6 or 7 for me in my ranking of these movies, maybe 5, but it's along there, 5, 6, or 7. I can't really remember at this time. But yeah, with that being said, I'm excited for hopefully what we're going to get here in the future. With the whole Jason universe, and they've been teasing us a lot with that, but excited what we're going to get here. I love the Never Hike Alone series that we're getting. I'm excited for Crystal Lake series, but Never Hike Alone, let's actually talk about that, because if it wasn't for like my YouTube channels that I watch regularly, like Drum Dums and We Watch the Movie, Cody Lee, all those, I probably wouldn't have known about Never Hike Alone, but I'm sure glad that I do know about it, because I think they're very well done made films. Womp Stomp Films is great. I mean, I think they capture what Friday the 13th and Jason is supposed to be, especially in a modern era like we are now. I wish they were giving more credit and a lot more chances to actually put their Jason on the big screen. I think they made 3 solid entries there, and I'm always excited to hear whenever they're doing something next. But other than that, guys, that is it for this installment here. If you like this, please like it, share it, and subscribe to the channel for more. I'm going to keep on doing these. And thank you for your time, and everybody have a great rest of your day.